And of all the challenges facing Africa's agribusiness sector, the failure to add value to crops before they are exported has proven the most intractable. Most African soft commodities are exported raw to global markets, and the processing industries that do exist locally struggle to add value, which may bring national prestige, but they require costly subsidies to survive and create little employment. With the COVID-19 pandemic now, which affected global economies, how badly did this really affect West Africa's soft commodities? Ted George, the Chief Narrative Officer at Close Advisory in London, joins us now to talk about this. Hello, Ted. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Hi. It's great to be back. Thank you.
Now, yesterday, you moderated a panel at GTR West Africa Virtual Summit discussing West Africa's soft commodity trade. COVID has caused huge disruptions to soft commodity value chains, blocking the flow of goods and financing. How has West Africa fared in this during this period, and what are the main challenges to overcome?
Well, I think the reality is West Africa has fared relatively well. If you bear in mind the crunching impact that COVID has had on so many of the world's value chains, a lot of the goods have continued to flow in West Africa. But I think there has been disruption. We've seen it at the borders. We've seen it at the ports. Even though there haven't been full lockdowns in West Africa, there have been curfews and restrictions. And this has clogged up a lot of the traffic. Another problem is actually about containers. Because the world's value chain flows have all been blocked up, a lot of the containers are in the wrong place. And this means it's getting more difficult to get hold of them, more expensive. And if you add in what just happened in the Gulf of Suez, which is blocked, the additional traffic expected in the Atlantic, there really is a huge blockages to uncover there. And then I think finally, the other challenge is how do you see what is going on the ground? It's been so hard for international companies to physically see what's happening in the value chains. And so as things loosen up, I think that, hopefully things will start flowing a bit better and we can address these blockages.
Yeah. Now, COVID has also resulted in many international banks pulling back from the commodity finance space. How has financing of West Africa's soft commodities been affected?
Well, I think basically there has been a real crunch when it comes to a number of banks which have pulled back from doing commodity financing. And then also we've actually seen, less confirming banks up there and a squeeze on some liquidity. But a lot of the big trade flows have been continuing. So I think, unfortunately, it's the usual suspects who have suffered. Small traders, SMEs, they only get around 20% of available finance for trade. And this is, really difficult for them at the moment. So that's where the efforts need to be focused. But the big level financing, that continues, even if it's a bit more pricier.
Now, both the EU and the US are developing stringent regulations against the use of forced labor in the soft commodity value chain. What impact is this likely to have on West Africa's soft commodity trade?
Well, it's going to have a huge impact because this is how business in the future is going to have to work. We can't act as if there are certain value chains in Africa, for example, where they produce cocoa or palm oil, where we don't really know what's going on, and then they enter the value chain and we're all trying to be green and ethical. They all have to be linked together. So in the long term, there will have to be much better traceability and much better transparency and monitoring of the value chain. That means using technology. We can't rely on people filling in questionnaires or a group of people visiting one tiny part of a plantation and saying this is what's happening in a massive region of hundreds of thousands of kilometers. So we have drones, we have satellites, remote sensors, smartphones. There are so many things that can be deployed, but that's what's going to have to happen because the proposed sanctions the EU and the US are talking about are severe. And if there are companies operating in the West who are exporting soft commodities from West Africa, they have to be able to prove that they have ethical supply chains with integrity. And to do that, you're going to need experts and technology to deliver it.
Absolutely. Well, Ted, it's always great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your time. We do appreciate it. Be well and be safe.
Thank you very much.